Hello and welcome to a little bit of Wellness. I'm joined by Trevor Dunne, a former lecturer of mine in IT3, now known as MTU. Trevor, how are you getting on?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Not too bad now. Good to see you. Haven't been a while.
It has been a while.
When I was there inside college.
18 months, I'd say.
Yeah, about that. We planned on loads of trips since the Galway races and all that Cheltenham. Down the ground now, so with Corona and everything.
Yeah. I wonder, will Galway go ahead this year, actually?
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of hard to... Like, they're trialling crowds in that low GA games, I'd say. If they go okay, there might be a certain amount out in.
Yeah. I thought I saw something in the news, if they can get the go-ahead, about 5,000 spectators will be let in, so I can imagine there'll be a
there's the rush.
Bit of a scramble for those tickets.
Are they like trainers and things included?
No, just
actual population.
they're aside from this. Yeah, I saw an announcement on social media on their Instagram page or something like that, about 5,000 spectators, but they still can't confirm if it is actually going to be the case. But,
and all these new waves and stuff like that.
It's dodgy. That's in 3 weeks' time, so
it is.
I don't know.
Yeah. Is it vaccinated people only, or is there any...
That could be the way they do it.
Okay.
You never know. Or they probably have antigen tests on the way in.
True.
I think you'll start seeing that now with sports events as they gradually allow more spectators in. I think you'll see the tests on the door, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. They're doing that with the Euros, aren't they, at the moment?
Are they? Yeah.
You have to get, I think, as far as I know, you get an antigen test when you go in.
Okay, right.
Yeah, I think at Wembley anyway, I've done it. Was over the Euros game in England, and I know he was saying if you got tested beforehand, you had to pass that.
Yeah.
But supposedly they're not very accurate. And that's the only, because like my mother there a few weeks ago, she was like, she failed an antigen test, but she was no COVID. Okay. You know, so it's weird.
Yeah.
It's hard to know how accurate they're.
It's a pity they're not accurate.
Yeah, do you know, it'd be a great start.
It would. It would solve a lot of problems, alright, yeah.
100%. But so just back to yourself a bit. Like obviously you went from IT3 where I was in college. Now that's changed to MTU and Munster Technological University. How have you found the change to that? Has there been any adaptations or?
Not necessarily on the ground, because I suppose it kind of happened in tandem with COVID, unfortunately. So the focus, unfortunately, was more so on how the hell do you teach online, having never actually done that before. But I have to say I'm quite proud of the way we kind of reacted to that. We were straight away into, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? How are we going to maintain the standards in terms of assessing students properly and trying our best to give them as good as an experience as possible. So I can't really comment on MTU yet, because I haven't really seen how it's influencing anything yet, to be honest. But in terms of how we adapted to the pandemic, I'm very proud of my colleagues on that front.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Am I getting emotional already?
Wouldn't be the first time.
8 minutes in.
But no, I was just like just to pick up what you said. Like when I was in college, like finishing off my final year when it struck in March, and I remember like we were all saying, "Geez, the whole lot would be called off now, it'd be a disaster." Yeah. But straight away, like, wow, we were on online lectures a week in, like. Yeah. So it was a very good transition, like.
Yeah. It was just weird because I've never done it before. I mean, it's one kind of skill doing it in real life, although I don't know how much skill life is but then trying to do it online is a completely different experience, and it's very tough for students as well.
Yeah,
very tough. Very tough.
It's like, how did you find, like, did students react differently to it? Were you getting a lot more emails and things like that? How did they kind of phase into it?
No, not really. Just some of the normal questions that are just part and parcel of the job, week by week. Maybe some people wouldn't have felt as comfortable to speak online, perhaps, which is strange. Sometimes I felt uncomfortable speaking online, because you're just not used to it, you know. So it took that little bit of crack out of the classroom, I'd say, for a lot of people. And I'd say if you are speaking to students that have just gone through it, I know you had a little bit of it, but I mean a full year of it,
big difference.
You know, it's a big difference. The fun is kind of taken out of it.
100%.
You know, believe it or not, sometimes a class can actually be enjoyable.
No, yeah, 100% they can. Like, the more kind of open you are to it, like I found first and second year, like I didn't do a straw. Like, I was there and I was it was all about Thursday night, like for me, and every other night with it, unfortunately. But then kind of, when I took the year out and I came back, I was like, geez, this is actually good shit, like, you know, actually interested.
Yeah. You grow into college. I mean, I was the same in first and second year. I hadn't a clue what some of my subjects were called a few weeks into first year, you know. Like, what's this called again? And I think sometimes we forget what it's like to be a student because you have so much information being thrown at you. Now, this is very important, that's very important. Here's a 6-page essay now, I want you to learn that off, so that's very important. And you're like, what subject is this again, you know? So yeah, it's tough enough in normal times and then trying to adapt to COVID. But the point I was trying to make, yeah, you do grow into college and I think you kind of start to figure out the things that will interest you further down the line.
Definitely, 100%. I can definitely second that. Just kind of with yourself, so like you went to college in Waterford, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
What did you study, if you don't mind me asking?
I did a BA in Recreation and Sport Management in WIT. It's kind of called RecMan. It's still there as a course actually, but they have a couple of other courses off the side of it now.
Yeah.
So I did that degree. I started that in 2000, in September 2000.
Given out of age now there.
Almost 21 years. And yeah, had a great time, like yourself. Got through it, got my degree, got through it. Decided I loved Waterford at that point and I wanted to stay where I was, so I just kind of worked in various places.
In the city?
In the city, yeah. I stayed around and I still would have known an awful lot of people in college at that time, in fourth year and third year.
Yes.
And then I saw an advertisement for an MA in Sport and Exercise Psychology that was going to be ran for the very first time in the college.
In Waterford as well?
In Waterford. A taught masters, actually the very first taught masters in sports psychology in Ireland at the time. And it sounded interesting. We did do sports psychology in first year, but only in first year. And I really liked it.
Yeah.
It was an introduction to it, but I really liked it. I kind of like, I wish we'd done more of that. And lo and behold, here's some masters in it now. So I saw that kind of midsummer and I said, right, that's what I'm going to do. I kind of want to go back now.
And was the goal always lecture or?
No, not really, no. I knew I wanted to go back to college and I think it was a good idea for me taking a year out. It mightn't suit everyone, but I think if you have that inkling that you just need a break before you start to do a master's or whatever, you should take it and just get a little bit of experience working anywhere, industry based preferably obviously, but if it's not, just work anywhere and get to know a place, get to know a city. So for me it was getting to know Waterford. Obviously I knew a bit about it.
But when you're a student it's different.
When you're a student it's different, but when you actually live and work in a city or in a small town as Waterford can be, you realise things and you realise things about yourself. So I kind of grew into myself a little bit in that year, and then I was much more focused going back to do my masters. But lecturing, no. At that point, no.
Was it during the masters?
It was it was during the masters. Yeah, it was. I think one of our lecturers actually asked us, you know, or broached the subject. You know, would you actually like to do it? And they just kind of explained it in a way that seemed attractive to me. And yeah, it was kind of halfway through. I was kind of going, okay, right. So, you know, because before that I didn't even know how you applied to be a lecturer. I didn't get what you needed to have or anything like that. You know, so a little bit of clarity around that, and then it was like, okay, that could be an option.
Yeah, definitely. And with yourself, like, so which students know that are maybe come out of college like me and thinking of going back doing a master's, would a taught master's be what you'd be recommending? Or?
If you need deadlines and if you need structure, absolutely. If you enjoy a timetable and you like having your day planned out for you, definitely do a taught master's if you know that that's the best way that you work. If you're the person that likes every week to be a little bit different, you like to do some work on this and then, okay, not this week, I'll do this now. A master's by research might be more beneficial. Some people are really good at that. I'm much more of a structured animal, to be honest with you. I love routine. So that's why the taught masters appeal to me. One isn't necessarily better than another though. I would say to students that are considering a top masters as well, it's probably going to be 2 days a week or a day and a half a week of just classes like you would in a normal degree.
And did you work along with it? Or?
Yeah. I worked in the sports hall in college and in summer camps in the college as well during the summers. But it's just like another year and a half of college really, when you'll have exams and essays and all of that. Whereas a master's by research, it's just one big project.
Yeah.
Now, the one advantage of a master's by research is that sometimes, depending on the college, you can actually get a little bit of teaching experience, a bit of lecturing experience.
Okay.
So that is another advantage of that. You don't have the structure, but you do get a chance maybe to
more experience,
to take a class or two for.
And with the non-top masters, so is it just, it's like a thesis but a big one? Yeah. So you're talking, it kind of depends on the college, but you're talking upwards of 20,000 words anyway. Yeah. There's us complaining about 10,000.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to learn it. I wouldn't do that.
Did you not know?
No, I said, people were like whinging and saying, oh, I just did. I said, God, above, like,
yeah.
It isn't actually that bad. The college actually is fine.
It kind of gets to the point, if you do a good job on it, like you're kind of struggling to fit it in 10,000 words, which I know sounds like what?
I had to cut loads of things.
There is a struggle to cut sometimes.
Yeah.
Or with any essay
and
sometimes.
Half of mine was cut because I couldn't do my post-testing. So like, you know, when I had that for my just pre-testing alone, like I had to change it. Like, I couldn't imagine getting it in.
Yeah.
So it's amazing. So like you went on then to do that, and when you to do lecturing, what did you have to do that time? Is it still the same as it is now?
It's still kind of the same. At the very least, for an IT, you'll need a master's and you'll need a couple of years. Sometimes they say 5 years, but sometimes 2 or 3 years of relevant industry experience on top of the master's.
Okay.
Could be enough to get you in. You still have to do a very good interview though.
Yeah, of course. And what would that consist of? Like industry experience? Could that be working in a gym?
Yeah.
Standard,
normal stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Whatever, any kind of relatable industry to the post that you're applying to, I suppose. Yeah. But in fairness, that's the nice thing about our world, is that within sport and health and exercise, science and jobs, everything is kind of relatable. To a certain extent, anyway. But yeah, that would be the very least that you would need. Universities can sometimes be a little bit stricter, and they will require a PhD. On top of that little bit of experience as well. I don't necessarily agree with that personally. This is a podcast. I'm not representing. I'm not really representing anyone. I'm not trying to sell anything here or anything like that. So I can say whatever the hell I want.
Of course, you can work away.
Where's the whiskey at? What's going on there?
Not today, Fred.
I'm expecting the Joe Rogan experience.
We get high now soon.
Don't like that sort of thing now. No, I don't. I actually don't like weed at all.
Do that?
No.
It's sick. Like it never did anything for me. Like I'd done it like 3 or 4 times, but it was never anything.
Yeah.
So, and I wasn't even in college. Like normally you'd expect in college, like trees a bit harder than weed, I'm afraid.
Yeah. So I don't judge anyone who dabbles in it every now and again. I don't think you should smoke weed every day. I think that's basically the same as drinking every day. So that's not going to turn out well.
Snoop Dogg's wrong, so. Snoop Dogg's wrong.
Yeah, the song, that literally came into my head when they said
it. Smoke weed.
What were we talking about there?
Whiskey's the last thing I remember anyway, because I know I'm having one when I get home.
What you need to be a lecturer.
You're on about the interview as well.
I was on about the fact that I don't think you need a PhD to be a lecturer, but unfortunately some universities say that you do.
Did you want to go to university first? Or?
No. Oh, I was an idiot back in secondary school. I barely knew what college was. I didn't realise there was a distinguishable difference between an IT and a university probably until I was in 3rd year of my own course. I was an idiot. These things did not register with me at all, and they would register with other people, but I was like clueless. I was just happy to be in college. So delighted.
And was it Tralee you first went to, or did you apply for other places before?
I actually worked in another college beforehand. I said to you before we started that I'm not going to mention names. I won't mention the name of that college, even though there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't. but I just feel like I won't. But I did work in another IT as a lecturer, similar course.
What? As I got fired.
No. It was just a temporary contract, a temporary arrangement, so I had a little bit of experience applying for the job in Tralee.
And do you think it stood to you having that when you went into the interview, like that? You could
Oh, definitely, yeah.
It was a bit of a...
Definitely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. How I got the original lecturing job in that first college, I'll never know. I think I just did a very, very good interview because apparently there were research fellows up against me and everything. And I kind of asked the boss actually, what was it about the interview? And he just said that we knew by you that you would be able to relate to students better than some of the people that we've had. They might have had PhDs and things like that and were able to show all of the things that they've done research-wise, but they knew by me that I could get what they knew across to them better.
Okay.
That's the way he put it to me.
Yeah.
So just for anyone listening, when you're going for a job, it's not really necessarily what's always on the page, it's how you relate and how you communicate with your interviewers. That's really what they're looking for.
Yeah, no, I hope my boss isn't listening to this because when I had my interview, he told me it was my interview as well that got me the job. But and then he told me about 3 weeks ago that everything I said in the interview I haven't really done yet.
There you go. Harsh but fair.
Yeah,
harsh but fair, man.
Then I had a bit of a backup, but then I had been doing stuff behind the scenes he didn't know about, and then he was like, oh yeah.
You were able to shock him with that then.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
I was thinking the feel. I think that's the most important. If
Nice.
you can adapt to the situation,
Indeed.
and then fly away from there.
Yeah.
But I had something in my head to ask you, and then it went out of my head completely again.
It's alright.
As per usual. Oh, have it now. I have to come into my head. What about Whisperers News?
Yes.
I heard a rumour that you were over that page on Facebook.
I can categorically say no, I have nothing to do with Waterford Whispers News. I am a fan. I've been a fan since the start, alright.
Yeah. Quoted every week actually in class. Usually.
Did I?
Usually, like, good bit.
Alright.
Or else laughing to yourself and phone. It was generally that post, so that's it, that was coming up there.
Alright. I actually don't follow them anymore really, because the comments on some of their bits on Facebook and Instagram of the people who don't understand irony or sarcasm or that just angered me, and it was like, oh, I can't actually read the comments anymore. So
Mary having a heart attack like about a comment that didn't even apply to it, like, you know.
Yeah.
It's standard. But you're denying that anyway.
Oh,
just out there for everyone to know.
Just so everyone knows, I have nothing to do with it.
Fair enough.
That's a strange one. That is.
No, it's just, you know what? Actually, a post came up recently, and it was on that, and I was like, there was no one else that I could think of where I would say that. Genuinely, it just reminded me, like, of being in the classroom, being in the psychology lecture, being in the philosophy lecture, and I was like, yeah, that's typical Trevor, like, honest to God. So,
fair enough.
It's a no anyway.
No.
So many people would be disappointed about that.
Definitely not.
Fair enough. Guys, I just said I'd find out, it's about halfway point through the podcast to get Trevor emotional again. He's actually the reason I started the podcast, would you believe? Trevor, when he was, what module was it again?
Wellbeing science.
Wellbeing science, there you go. Wellbeing science, he got us to do a podcast, but it was a podcast with like 3 of us, and boys, I hope to God you're not listening, but the 2 boys I was with, I was like, good God. Didn't want to talk at all, and I was like, actually I enjoyed this, like, you know, I kind of hosted the one that we did. I was like, oh, this is actually pretty good, like, and then the fact it was a well-being thing, I was like, yeah, wellness podcast, so
yeah,
there you go.
very good.
Now he's a guest.
Yeah.
So that.
But no, I think what you're doing is fantastic. Like, you've great setup here, brilliant way of promoting what you do here, and what you do. You know, you're taking on personal training clients, things like that. So to discuss things around that and bring, I think it's great the way that you're giving students an opportunity and a platform to show people what they do and what they can do, as well. So that's you're providing a service as well as honing another part of your skill set too. So it's very impressive. And I'm not just saying that to promote you. It's a brave thing to do as well.
Yeah, it's kind of like...
I've kind of dabbled with the idea, but then I'm kind of going, sure, every day is a podcast for me in work, you know. No one else needs to hear that, but no, to actually do this, it takes balls, so very impressive.
No, it took me a while to be honest, because I had it in the works the end of last year, and then I was like, you know, pandemic, I wanted to be in a studio doing it, I was like, I don't want to do them all online, so I was like, right, what am I going to do? But as soon as I literally joined this place, I was like, this room, mine.
Yeah.
Mine. I said it straight away when I came in. Like, I actually said it during the interview. I did my interview in here, and I was like, I want this room. And they were looking at me as if to say, what's wrong with you? I said, why do you want this room? I told them the idea of doing a podcast, like, and then they were literally, it was like they never heard of a podcast before.
Yeah.
And they were just sold to the straight away.
Yeah, a lot of people haven't actually, or are not really sure. I think the key thing about a podcast is that it's informal.
Yeah.
There are some podcasts that are quite formal, and I don't know. I just like when people are chatting shit.
No,
throw in the odd little bit of science or actual facts.
Yeah.
But then it's just chatting shit.
But opinion is grand too. But obviously I like information because it is a wellness podcast.
Yeah.
If someone takes something from it, one person can be changed doing it, and a lot of the time we get messages here that Jesus, I needed that. You know, and that's a huge thing. If you can change one person in a good way, on top of entertainment, that's the whole idea.
That's the whole idea. It's the whole idea of them, and I think it's interesting to see the ones that are doing the best in Ireland are the ones that are completely independent, where the host is in control. They can pretty much say whatever they want within reason, obviously. But like you've the Blind Boy podcast, you've the Two Johnnies.
Don't be wrong, other podcasts.
And you've a little bit of Wellbeing, right up there as well in the charts. So
in the top 10 actors.
Long may it continue. Long may it continue.
Hit number one come Christmas. I can feel we'll have a single out in the whole offer.
Yeah.
So kind of with yourself, you listen to a good few podcasts yourself. Movies and massive thing you start was kind of linking on the college. Is there anything that you're kind of into these days?
I was actually listening to Quentin Tarantino on the Joe Rogan podcast only last night, and Pulp Fiction is my favourite film. I just love it. I just absolutely love it. The randomness of it, and they made the point that before Pulp Fiction there was never really a film like that.
True.
And I just found it interesting the way they were talking about a lot of films followed a particular format or they play by a certain set of rules, and then Pulp Fiction comes along. Arguably Reservoir Dogs before Pulp Fiction and just broke all of that. And then the 90s kind of went crazy again. The 90s was kind of like the 70s. And now it's like back to the 80s. Everything's, oh, no, you can't say that, or you have to do this, it's strange.
It's a cycle though, isn't it? I find.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear what people a little older than me think about the world today versus the way it was when they were growing up. Not like people in their 80s and 90s, but say people in their 50s, what they think of things, because they're the next generation up from me, kind of. So it's interesting to see what they actually think of things like movies and things like that, because they do mirror, they do culture mirrors,
100%.
But yeah, I've always loved movies. The first film I saw in the cinema was Batteries Not Included, which I think is a Steven Spielberg film.
It's definitely at the bottom of every toy anyway, I know that.
yeah, it is about aliens, small little burger-shaped aliens. I need to watch the film again.
So those are dudes that make the toys basically, and the factories not included.
Maybe, yeah. I actually can't remember a whole pile about the film.
Do you believe in aliens?
Oh yeah, totally.
Is it,
yeah. I'm not like an alien nut. Like I don't go, trying to convince people or read much around the topic. But I think to say that they don't exist would be very naive, considering the size of everything.
Exactly.
It would be very silly to think that there's nothing
100%.
else out there.
Gareth Bale had an interview recently. I don't know if you see it. He was saying about aliens. He was saying you're an idiot if you don't believe in them. He was saying, look at all the facts they're they're there.
Yeah, I kind of agree with him.
Yeah, I imagine they're definitely somewhere, but they mightn't look the way we, picture the alien.
Yeah,
as in people make drawings of them. I think they could be literally anything. Because I had actually a conversation with someone recently. They were saying alien could be we say something is alien to you, it's something you just don't know.
Yeah.
So something that you can't identify might be alien.
Well, if they can travel that amount, travel at that pace for those distances, what else are they capable of? In terms of how they hide their identities, camouflage, things like that.
Yeah, that is true.
So Yeah.
There could be one in this room.
It's freaking me out now.
It's under the table.
We shouldn't have brought this up.
Just a roller coaster of emotions. And like yourself, you were actually an athlete kind of yourself. You were a runner. No, you would. You good times. I'd say. I'd classify as an athlete, definitely. Like you're competitive. That's I consider myself an athlete, like a crippled athlete, but I still consider myself an athlete. How have you found since the pandemic? Have you still been competing, or what kind of way have you been?
There's been no racing as such, unless you are elite.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was strange at the start. Was probably a little bit of a, I don't know, I can't think, sorry, there's a word that will not come to my head, but you know the way when it first started, I think most people said, sure, by the summer,
yeah.
So it was okay that there was no races and you could still kind of train away, albeit sometimes in a 2k radius, which was a little bit annoying.
Yeah. Up and down,
but got through that. Yeah, so it was almost like a novelty that you had to, here's the challenge now, adapt to this, train away. But then it became apparent that, oh god, this thing is going to be here with us for like a good while. And it was annoying because I trained really well in the summer. I think there was an 8-week period where I averaged 85 to 90 miles a week running, which is high for me. Yeah. Even
you'd be 5k, 10k kind of thing.
I wouldn't really. I'd be 5k, 10k half marathon, and then the odd marathon. So I'd be like, there's a lot you can do within that sphere. But certainly 60, 70 miles a week, I'm good to go in anything bar a marathon. I'd be a little bit higher, if I was training for a marathon. But I just went nuts because there was nothing much else to do. So yeah, I did an 8-week period of that. But then there was no races, so I was like really, really fit.
Yeah.
And I'd done, my faster sessions within that mileage and all of that as well, so I was raring to go. I think just got one cross country race in Galway at the beginning of October, and that was it. That's the last, that was the last chance.
And have you trained since?
Yeah, I've kept training. Unfortunately, I hurt myself stupidly. I was walking down the stairs and missed the last 2 steps, as you do, and landed on my heels. So this was back in December.
Achilles?
No, the back of my knee, I think, at the hamstring insertion point, or I probably torn a meniscus. Yeah, and there's a bit of cartilage floating around, so
could have been a PCL damage as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been doing exercises, gone to a physio, but to be honest with you, it doesn't hurt or anything. It's just on longer runs where I'd be kind of trying to speed up at a particular point or speed up towards the end.
Can't kick.
Yeah, it'll get quite sore. Yeah. Now I have to test that. Does it still do that now? But so I'm kind of training away. I'm getting fit again after taking a bit of a break, but I don't know now if it's fixed. So I think it's MRI time.
Yeah, no, so many people, if they come with a problem and it doesn't sort itself out, I'd always say you want security, you want guaranteed MRI.
Yeah. I don't like training knowing that there's probably something wrong here.
Yeah.
There's no pain, but there's definitely
something in the mind that's that the message is even getting delivered to you saying, okay, this something isn't right there. Yeah. So I think I'll have to accept now. Well, we'll see what the MRI says, but I'll be a good athlete and accept and do the right thing. Yeah, like the rest of us don't do, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, I could have done it a while ago, but sure, there you go.
Sure. But so you spoke there about kind of time off training and things like that. As a lecturer, obviously, summers off and things. How do you find? Well, maybe you don't, because you have to be obviously correcting and things like that. But you do have the few months where it's not the same as college every day.
Yeah.
How do you find that time? Do you find it difficult? Is there any challenging parts about it, or do you just love it?
I need to be in a routine as regards sleep and things like that, and training and eating properly. And as long as I get those right, that's fine. Sometimes I let that go, and then it's then I'm tired from training and things like that. But no, if I can keep a routine, that's the key. And then towards August, the end of August, I'm back in work mode then. So I'm sorting out all my notes and thinking about classes, and that's ideal then when you get into September that you have things planned out. Yeah. You can't just rock in on day one and go, right.
I'm sure there are a few that do that.
Probably, yeah.
You're definitely not. You have to.
I can't do that. I can't do that. I have to be organised.
Honour the teammates, always. Don't call them out like that. There's definitely a few. I'd 100%, if I was doing anything, I'd leave it till the last week, I'd be.
Would you?
It depends, like I'm kind of chilled out enough to leave it to the last, you know, and still get it done. Like, I think a lot of people, the people that need to be very organised, I don't like putting people into categories or labelling people, but I think a lot of it, they'll use energy and negative energy because they're not organised. And whereas if I wasn't organised, I wouldn't use that negative energy, so I'd have the actual positive energy to challenge it.
Well, it's a personality trait, it's conscientiousness. So with most personality traits, everyone is on a bit of a scale. So let's say you're saying that you're not particularly conscientious on some things, maybe sometimes, so you probably score quite low, whereas another person would score high on it, and they would be upset by not being given the opportunity to be organised, and it would upset them, whereas you'd be fine. But it actually comes down to a personality trait. Psychologists have kind of whittled it down that there are probably about 5 personality traits. Conscientiousness would be one.
No, I should know what it is because I did this in junior college, but I have no clue. I remember the word, alright, but then I'm kind of. What are the other? Do you know the other 4?
Neuroticism, so that would be the tendency that you worry about things. Conscientiousness and neuroticism are kind of similar, but one is more so about organising your life, whereas neuroticism is just your tendency to worry in general about life in general or very specific things. How easily you're set off, I suppose. You know the way you just have, some people are just, they tend to be a little bit of a worrier, and they will expect the worst to happen.
Always, but
whereas other people are, well, let's see how it goes, or well, sure, if I don't do it right the first time, I'll learn from it.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm the type of person, if it goes wrong, I think it's a good thing. It's fine, you know, because that was meant to happen, and that's the reason to grow, you know.
Okay.
Where someone else would be like, oh Jesus, you know.
So in that case, you would probably score quite low on the neuroticism trait.
Score low on all of them. I'd score low on all of them. I'd say you're talking.
No, then the other one is openness. I'd say you're quite an open person. You don't.
This is psychoanalysis in me.
No. Yeah, I'm quite open as well. I give everything away. You know, I tell everyone.
Apart from the college you started on. Apart from the college you started on.
And there's still time for it to slip out, Corey.
That's true. Yeah.
Loads
Where's the whiskey? Get it.
I'd say we both score quite high on that. You know, then another one is introversion or extroversion. So I think most people have heard of you know, if someone's an introvert, they tend not to be, you know, open and reveal their innermost feelings to anyone and everyone. And extroverts are the opposite. You know, everyone gets to hear everything all of the time.
A girl know that she'll definitely be listening to this, she'll actually kill me. She asked me the question the last day after I did my last podcast, are you more of an introvert or an extrovert? And I was like, I don't like labelling myself or putting myself into a category.
And you shouldn't, because apparently we all have these 5 personality traits to some extent. It's when you're on an extreme of either end. So let's just take extroversion. If you're extremely extroverted, that can maybe cause problems in life for you. Sometimes maybe people might feel like you can't keep secrets, for example, that you can't be trusted. Whereas if you're extremely introverted, people might actually avoid you because you might give them the impression that you don't like them. Whereas you're just actually quite shy. And then you notice that sometimes shy people tend to be not surrounded by friends. So I suppose the idea is that could you possibly get someone to score right down the middle on all of the 5 personality traits? Doesn't exist.
No, but I'd say what you could have is someone that in a certain situation might be slightly this way. But in another situation might go slightly that way, and that's their balance. You know, they might have a window, as in to say, okay, I'm here at home, but I'm going to come back. You know, for adapt to each thing, like that's kind of the way I like to see things anyway.
They're not set in stone, and you're dead right. They do respond sometimes to different situations.
This is the factual part of the show, by the way, that we were just talking about a bit earlier.
There used to be loads of theories around personality, but nowadays, and there's loads, but this is the big 5 theory of personality traits. They just find it easier to work with 5. Like there's other theories that have like hundreds and thousands of them. It's just like
What's the point?
What's the point of that? Like, you know, so.
No, definitely. There was something actually really interesting you was talking about in college. It was the main thing that kind of got me into. I really related to it because there was a time where I used to be very up and down, and then after I took my year out of college, everything became balanced because of I went through an experience that I didn't think I'd ever have to go through, and the fact I did it on my own, I was like, Jesus. But when I came back from it, I was like, thank God that happened. Ever since then, my life in terms of mentally has been very good. But what I related to that was you spoke about like happiness and being on a hedonic treadmill. Can you just talk to people about that and what your thoughts are?
Yeah, the hedonic treadmill is just another theory, and it basically it is about happiness, but in general it's about general well-being. So according to the theory, and it is just a theory, so remember a theory is just a guess at the way something is, but everyone is born with a genetic happiness set point. So it's kind of like, imagine a line on an electrocardiograph. And when you experience a positive or a negative event, so if you experience a positive event, you get a burst of happiness, so you're up from the line is down here, so whoop. Or if you experience a negative event, you're down underneath the line, okay? But the amazing thing about human beings is that we adapt quite quickly to both positive and negative events, and we return back to our happiness set point and we continue on. So it's always something that amazes psychologists. There's been studies done that compares and tests this theory. Say one group would be lotto millionaires and another group would be people who've had a terrible accident and who are now in a wheelchair. And they looked at the deviation from their happiness set point, so positively and negatively, and they found that they both actually returned back to the happiness set point in a very comparable amount of time. So they both actually adapted to the circumstance really quickly.
And is there anything, what I find interesting, is there anything about, can you alter where your genetic set point is? So like for me, I feel that my genetic set point was here, but I think now it's up here.
Yeah.
Like that's just the way I feel like in myself. Is there anything on that?
There's a little bit, yeah, there are bits on that, and they say that people have multiple happiness set points just to make it even more complicated. Yeah.
A bit like personality traits.
Yeah. But certainly, yeah, it is possible to raise your genetic happiness set point. So you're starting from here now.
Yeah.
So if something does happen, well, when you do go back up, you're back up at this higher level. You know.
And can you pass that on then, or what's it?
They say it is something to do with genetics, yeah, and maybe it's tied up in personality as well. Sure. You know, maybe neuroticism. So the idea that you expect things to go wrong, or that when things go right for you, you go, that's not going to last for long. You know. So it's about, I suppose it's how you respond to things. So there's kind of three parts to the theory. There'll be shifting adaptation levels. So let's say I get a pay rise. I'm probably going to be quite happy with that. So I'm going to go up from my happiness set point. But I'll gradually adapt to that new level of pay and I'll be back down again. Yeah. But if I get more holidays, I can distinguish between those two different stimuli. So I'll go up again. Yeah. They might seem quite similar, but apparently you're able to distinguish between similar positive or negative events. So you get a boost or a knockback. You can also sometimes become desensitized to positive and negative events in life. So you'll see people who have grown up or have to live in war-torn countries, they get so used to the terror of that and witnessing horrible accidents and injuries and things like that, that it actually doesn't knock them down from their happiness set point for very long at all. They go back up because they've become so desensitized to it. Yeah. And similarly, people can become desensitized to things going very well. So that's probably why when people win the lotto, that burst of happiness, that hedonic happiness, it doesn't last as long for them as maybe they thought it might. Yeah. And they start to get a little bit, you know,
not knowing what to do themselves.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about a pay rise there. Like I won't name them now. You probably won't watch it anyway. Thank God. But there's a lad I work with. Like if we got a pay rise here, for some reason we got that. That's what he'd say. I don't like that. There's something going on. He'd say, no, they were after getting that. They're going to sack us in 3 months or something. Yeah, that's the way you'd be thinking straight away.
Yeah, and I suppose that's a big part of happiness, is just accept when things are actually going well. And just saying that, you know, reminding yourself that you've actually put a bit of work in here. You deserve that pay rise, or you know, you deserve that promotion or you deserve that job. Like when you're going for a job interview, you have to convince yourself that you actually do deserve this job. There's other people going for it as well, but
like I'm actually the best in the world doing that, like, making myself think that I'm better. I think it's a great trait.
You have to
actually just be able to take yourself out from the, you know, everyone else kind of might have, they think they're within the crowd, but to be able to actually take yourself out of it, I think it's a huge thing.
And I think that's what people look for in interviewees. Now, I don't think they look for fake people either.
No.
But sometimes in life, in difficult situations, it's the person that is able to not hide away and take on the challenge. That's the person that they want.
Yeah. What do you, like, say with college students now, would you notice a trend when you're looking at a college student, say first year to fourth year, would you notice a trend in terms of the shift of their mindset in terms of that kind of thing? Would there be a big difference? Or
yeah, big difference in confidence. And it's one of the most favourite part of my job is watching students grow in confidence. You might have someone in first year that wouldn't say a thing to you or would never raise their hand in class, and then by fourth year you can't shut them up. But it's just one of the most amazing things to see from my job. And it's not anything in particular that I've done, it's just simply the experiences, all of the combined experiences that they go through in college. You quite literally watch them grow up in front of you, which is an amazing privilege, I think, and it's never something that I'll take for granted. It's amazing to see a young person grow into themselves like that.
No, I was definitely one of those in your classes in first and second year. I was like, nothing.
Yeah.
But I wasn't, it was just because I didn't give a shit.
Yeah, there is.
Totally. I just,
no, I know.
Care in the world, I was there and I was like, oh my god, there's never in my third version.
Yeah, it's a very common trend, yeah. And sure, like I said, I was the same. It took me another little while. It was kind of in my master's class that I started to kind of show everyone what was up, like. Yeah, I was quite a shy person in college, yeah. And towards the end then, not so. I had my own friends, like, but as regards in class and saying stuff, no, not really, no. Which is unusual now that that's my job, like, but...
Have you a student since like me that has had to wanted to watch horse racing on the big screen?
Yeah, oh, that's no problem. If you hadn't been there, I'd have done that.
No, I remember like I missed one day and the girls were like, I thought it was just you, but he put it on himself. And I was like, there you go, like, you're blaming me. Yeah. You wouldn't have got fired if anyone gave it.
No. We'll just blank this part out. We use that tool that they have in Men in Black. You know the pen.
Oh yeah.
They don't actually remember what we were just saying there.
Oh yeah. So, there you go. It was the aliens. So, like, kind of with yourself, had you any inspiration kind of in life, kind of growing up, or when you got into your job now, was there anyone that you kind of really look at and say, yeah, they're the shit, because I like what they're doing?
Sporting wise or professional wise?
Either.
Sporting wise, it was the Irish soccer team in the 90s. It was that we're not supposed to be here or win this, but Jesus Christ, we're almost going to win it, like, kind
of. Were you drinking it?
No, I was just asking. I was 7 in Italian night. Sorry, 6.
Oh, right.
About to turn 7.
Well, that's drinking at age in Ireland if you ask me. Yeah. My first pint of Guinness when I was 4.
Yeah, that's when I fell in love with sport, was Italian 90, and I realised how important it was to people. And I kind of loved soccer anyway then, when I really loved it after that. So it was the Irish players in Italia 90 and USA 94, they would have been a huge source of inspiration for me. I often wonder sometimes what Ireland would be like, or would have been like in the 90s and the early 2000s if we hadn't have done so well and the country hadn't have got that lift. Because
it got us onto the world stage, European stage, I found. Like when you watch Real in the years, that was the shift. Yeah, that was the major boom in the world.
And it's so hard to describe to people. And I mean, I was quite young, so I didn't really get all of what was happening. More so in USA 94, as I was a little older, obviously. But it's so hard to describe it. We haven't been to a World Cup since. 2002.
Yeah.
But again, to describe to a younger person who doesn't even remember 2002, you know, it was, God, it means so much.
Yeah.
You have people invested in it that from other years, one year to the next, wouldn't give a toss about sport in any way, shape or form. And now there's my mother glued to the TV, shouting to the screen. You know, it's amazing, isn't it? That
sport can really trigger.
Yeah.
And you know, I think it's the most important, I think, element in the world of sport.
Yeah.
Because of the emotion it brings, because of the positivity it can bring, because of how it teaches to deal with negativity as well. So it might be a bad thing,
Definitely.
but how it's just, I think it's a powerful, like, it's such a broad thing that everyone watches, that like I see now women in sport trying to promote that, whereas like a lot of people won't like people saying this, but I'm saying like I'm looking at girls complaining about like they're not getting the opportunity. It's like you need to promote the shit out of it on social media. Like instead of talking about David Clifford, you need to start talking about Sinead Ahern, the Dublin footballer, like, or else it's never going to go anywhere. Like, so I think when you're looking at now social media, it's all about, you know, equality, sport, things like that. And there's such a shift when it comes to sport. Like, it's amazing.
That's one thing I like about athletics.
Yeah.
I mean, you can really quantitatively see, because of times and distances and lifts and what those women are actually capable of and what the men are capable of. Yeah. And you go, not in a million years could I do that, or that would take some amount of work to be able to run that fast or jump that high. That's what I love about athletics, is you can quantitatively see how much work goes into that. And then you compare the times in, you know, the 5k at the Olympics coming up to the times in like a county track, and you go, right, there's so many levels. That's what I love about athletics, actually, is that there's so many levels. Yeah. Like the difference between someone who can run a 5k in 17 minutes versus 16:30. It's
huge.
It's a huge difference.
30 seconds is massive.
Yeah, yeah. So sometimes it's hard to see, I think, sometimes in team sports, the difference in levels. So maybe athletics serves women well when it comes to the whole respect in terms of the amount of work that they put in, because it's there on the screen what they've just done, and you just have to go, wow, you know.
No, definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, we're kind of on the point of how important sport is.
Yeah.
It just is.
It is
a huge mechanism for well-being as well. You know, like there's the hedonic side of it. There's just simple joy, and are we going to do it? Yes, we did. You know, those moments.
But the journey,
pure hedonic pleasure. But there's also the eudaimonic side of well-being, which would be like psychological well-being. So there's a sense of purpose to sport for the athlete, for fans. There's positive relations with others. There's that sense of autonomy that I actually did this. I put in the work to do this. And there's the social well-being side of it as well. You're integrated in your society. You play for your club. You see how you contribute to your community around you in a very simple way, but sometimes in a very important way. So sport and exercise and what you have going on here in the gym in this toll and with your personal training clients, it's a building block for well-being. It really is. It's one of the easiest building blocks to get going as well. So to say that sport is only about money and selling Coca-Cola and protein bars and things like that, it really, really undersells it. It's so important. It's a huge mechanism for well-being.
Yeah, definitely. Like I even noticed there, like crowds going to games and they're saying, oh, there's 200 allowed to club games or something like that. So we had again the last day. So definitely a lot more than that anyway. And no social distancing or not, and the whole parrot comes out, like, you know.
That's interesting, Porrick. A pity I can't comment on that.
We'll cut that one out there, definitely, for sure.
What, you mean we're on right now?
It's not live, but
I don't believe it.
but yeah, no, like it's a massive thing, because people, like, some people, that's what they live for. Do you know, they live for looking at this local sporting team, play football, play hurling, whatever it is, like that's what their thing is like. Yeah.
So yeah, to go back to your original question, the inspiration for me, not just to be active and to play sport was the Irish soccer team, but just to not count yourself out. Yeah. Because a lot of people would have counted that team out in the 3 World Cups that they were in. But they ended up being quite competitive in.
The only thing though I don't like about Irish sport is the underdog story.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
I'd love that to change.
Yeah.
I hate this thing that people want Dublin to lose because they've actually took the game to the next level.
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, why do you want the team to lose that are breathing excellence?
Yeah.
Do you know, fine, like, you support Kerry, you want Kerry to beat them, but the rest of the other 31 counties want them to beat. Like, it's this thing in Ireland that if you're a winner, they don't like you.
Yeah.
I do not like that. I really don't like it. I hate it so much that it's just still ingrained in this country that the more successful you are, the more they want to bring you down.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love watching Dublin play football.
Same.
It's exciting,
Yeah.
you know. It's clinical.
Yeah, exactly.
It's well coached.
Yeah.
It's everything.
It's
that
just
the game-
excellent.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Like,
Yeah.
and people hate it.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. But imagine if everyone's shifted to the mentality of winners are great
Yeah.
instead of you win, I hate you.
Just to find out I'm actually from Wexford. I know sometimes I might sound like I'm from Dublin, and then sometimes I sound like I'm from Kerry. I don't know. My accent is going mad at the moment.
And I get it myself. I'm what you call it. I lived in Kildare for 4 years, and supposedly I still carry the twang.
Oh, did you live in Kildare?
Yeah, 4 years. Yeah, I was a kid.
Oh, all right. For 4 years.
Yeah.
So the first 4 years.
The first 4 years.
Oh, okay. What part of Kildare?
I tell you,
Oh, okay.
Funstone. I tell you,
All right. Johnstown.
Funstone.
Fonstown.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where were you in Wexford?
I'd be up the very top of Wexford, so past Gorey on the way to Tinnehealy.
Oh.
That might make sense to some listeners, and to others it will make no sense whatsoever.
My sister lived in, I think it was Ross Gray or something like that.
Ross Gray?
Yeah.
That's
No, that's not.
That's awfully tip order.
Where?
Ross
Lair.
Ross Lair.
Ross Lair.
Where the
Where
ferry
the harbour.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
There you go. That's the name.
Mm.
She was there for, I think, maybe 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Nice part of the country, actually.
It is.
Yeah.
It's not part of the country I'd be very well acclimatised to. I don't really know that part of Wexford at all.
Oh.
But it's lovely. I know it is lovely around there down the coast, and I've been there a couple of times. Like, but
Do you go back much, like?
well, I can. I mean, it's 4 hours of a drive.
That's horrible.
It's a horrible drive. Well, it's not too bad on the
Do you
other side.
go Kilkenny? We like from Limerick now. We go either through Kilkenny. There's a place called Inishtig where
You could go that way,
But
alright.
it's
Yeah.
supposed to go to Rosslare. That would suit more.
It would. Yeah.
Where you're going.
Much more southerly direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually lovely. Have you ever been there, Inishtig in Kilkenny?
I've been outside it a few times. Yeah.
Lovely spot. It's like a little kind of park.
Yeah.
Or it's a really nice place.
And a castle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice actual spot.
Yeah. I drove through it a few times.
Yeah, I only passed through, but like it was one of those places, like, you know, typical Irish, but really nicely kitted out. Like, you know?
Yeah.
Just one of those. You'd love to just go and have a drink into the leg or something like that.
Right, let's go. Inishtig it is. Stay conditioned.
It's bad that, like, at one of those podcasts we talk about whiskey or that. Every single thing.
In moderation, part.
Moderation. Exactly. That's what I always say. Anyone that says anything to me, then literally they always say, like, oh, you can't talk about that. It's one of those podcasts. But I'm like, there's nothing wrong with enjoying with your friends a couple of drinks. You're doing whatever you do once it's kept. You know.
That's actually another side to the hedonic treadmill. It's sensitization. So do you know people who really love cheese and wine and things like that? The idea that they don't know what this is going to taste like actually bumps up their happiness level. So that's why
Excitability kind of thing.
it's an excitability thing. Yeah, it's different stimulus all the time.
Yeah.
So that's probably why people become addicted to adventure sports, to sport in general, because you don't know if you're going to win.
Yeah.
Do you ever wonder why people just play sport even though they don't really know how it's going to go?
Yeah.
I think it could be part of that sensitization principle of the hedonic treadmill, because when it works out and you didn't know how it was going to go, you get a boost off that, you get a buzz off it, and then you go, I want that again, because you know the next experience will be slightly different. It could be more challenging, difficult against a different team. So I actually think that's a little bit of a part of what drives an athlete. It's chasing the unexpected high.
Yeah.
And I think it happens with food, and it happens with drink as well.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. Like my first game back in, I'd say 3.5 years of football, like I'm plagued with injuries, and my first competitive game back was a week and a half ago, and whatever it was, I was just free, completely free. I ended up pretty much shooting the lights out. The next thing you come on, like the next we had a game 2 days later, and I remember coming on, and I was like, right, now suddenly my expectation level like went from playing that game, they were just delighted as they were in the field, to suddenly go win a game, like, and kick points and do the whole lot. Like, the next thing I was like, first ball came in, drove it 30 yards wide. I was like, oh Jesus, here we go.
Yeah.
So I adapted to it, injured against Ince, of course, as usual. But
How are you?
yeah, well, just life. I think I got off at the right time. It was hamstring again. I trained on the last night, but I think I'll be okay.
Okay.
I didn't completely tear like last year, so I'd say I should be alright.
Well, a bit of rest.
Yeah, rest, do that rehab next week and see what it does.
Okay.
It's a good excuse to go drinking this weekend.
Well, you've all the facilities here to get it right again, in fairness.
Yeah, that's true. I'm a coach here as well, so that's really handy. What's your theory? Have you a coach yourself? No, or do you still do it yourself?
Yeah, I do. I do have someone who dictates sessions for me twice a week. All right, yeah. And again, I won't mention that person's name. I just decided I won't mention anyone else's name on the podcast. But yeah, so I was at a session this morning with that coach and a group of athletes from my club. Yeah.
And how did you always have a coach yourself? Or
No.
Okay, recent or?
Maybe 5 or 6 years. I'm with that particular group and with the club as well. So yeah. So being with a club is good because you always find pockets of people to train with.
Exactly.
There mightn't necessarily be a big group on one particular night training away, but you'll notice sometimes in athletics clubs it's kind of it works itself out.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's nice to have.
Yeah.
I mean, I only started running when I was 30. You know, so it wasn't something I did when I was a teenager, and I just got to the point. I kind of mostly taught myself. Really, Couch to 5K program was actually the first thing that.
We're actually running one of those in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, so I would be a huge advocate of them. So Liz told Couch to 5K program people if you're interested. Just learning a little bit more about running and how to get better at it.
Like the person who's doing it, Dunne, what might be saying, like he's a sprinter, he's a legs coach. Like, I know he's a sprinter, but he knows technique runner.
Yeah.
He's well able to coach it. So
yeah.
It's important, I think, not just to have Joe saying, right, let's go coach to 5K, not even knowing the technique or knowing how.
Oh, that's great that you're actually teaching people properly.
Yeah, breaking it down properly.
That's fantastic. And you learn your limits, you learn what's too fast, what's too slow, you learn how to push yourself. Like there's an awful lot of information on running online and different sessions that you can do. And how fast should I run my long run? How many miles a week should I do if I'm at this level? And but there's nothing like having a group around you to train with and a knowledgeable coach then as well, which Dylan obviously is. So that's great to hear.
He's my coach as well, like, so I can definitely go through it. Like.
Yeah, that's how I got into running, and then I said, I'm going to join the club, and just it's that chasing those times. I mean, I'll never win anything important or anything like that, but there are times that I want.
Okay.
And then the odd time in cross countries I might contribute to a team medal, at county or Munster level, never any higher than that. But that's nice. That's lovely to be able to do. But it's really just I want particular times at particular distances, and that's all I need. I'm very simplistic about it. Yeah. I don't know what it is about it. I just love that chase. The pardon the pun.
And how do you react if you don't get to where?
Oh, I'd be tick, yeah. Especially if I put in a lot of work and, in training, I'm kind of running particular times and particular sessions or doing a particular amount of work. And then for whatever reason it doesn't happen on the day of the race.
And how have you coped better with that, do you think, over time? Or?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. I'd be tick for a few hours. I'd be despondent for a few hours and then I'd go, right, okay. We'll do a recovery run now tomorrow or take the day off and then we'll go at it again. Yeah.
For the first time in a long time after that second game I was talking about, it lingered with me since until maybe a couple of days ago, and that's over a week, and that's never happened before.
Okay.
So it was I found it a very weird one. And I was saying to the coach, I was like, "Geez, how do I?" He couldn't really answer it for me. Like he was saying, "You kind of have to." So he was, in fairness, he was telling me everything he was telling me was like something that I tell myself if I was coaching someone. But it was just one of those things.
Was there a big gap between the good game and the bad game?
Only a day and a half. So it was the big high to them.
Only a day and a half between games?
Yeah, but I only came on for the last 10 minutes, like of the second one.
Okay. Yeah. You might have been in a kind of a state of shock because your brain has been asked to go from this huge high, this little bump up from your happiness set point to suddenly,
Yeah. No, I don't know what it was. I don't know. It was a weird one.
Yeah.
it kind of happens that way. But
Yeah.
like I find athletes not really, or especially team sport players, I find more than anything, because if you're an individual athlete, you're only letting yourself down. You might be letting the coach down, but realistically it's yourself, and you know yourself.
Yeah.
But if you're letting down the rest of your team, because they've done all the work to get you the ball, you're supposed to be the one that's.
Yeah, I get you.
You know, it kind of, I suppose, I'd no expectation the first day to expectation, and then I'd be considering myself as a person that deals with pressure better than anyone, and then you beat yourself up when you don't deal with that pressure. Like you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
You know?
I suppose what you need to keep doing is just reminding yourself of the times you didn't let them down, and maybe some of the times that you actually probably carried them, or when they really relied on you and you came through.
Hasn't been that many though.
But it has happened.
Cripple FC here, like. My God, absolute cripple, like. But anyway, we better move on as well, because she's up here all night. And I want to drink some whiskey actually. Saturday evening. Oh, do you watch the Euros?
A little bit, yeah. Dabbling in and out.
England, any ideas? What do you think? Would you be one of those that like don't want England to win?
I wouldn't mind. No, I wouldn't bother me.
I've Italy back, like, so. I've Italy back.
Oh, do you?
Since the start,
yeah.
I'm fairly hot now. I'm going to learn the national anthem myself for next Sunday.
Yeah. They need a better striker. If Lukaku played for Italy, that'd be something that.
Yeah, I just think he'd mess up everything, Lukaku. His feet.
I don't know. He's impressed me with holding up the ball. And
yeah, true, I suppose. Yeah.
I just don't think he got good supply in the last game.
He had a really good chance though.
He did, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm so glad it didn't win.
Yeah.
But the dude that did his Achilles, Spinazzola, he's some athlete, that fella.
Yeah.
Talking about running.
Oh yeah?
God.
Yeah.
That fella just goes. Like he's left back, like he's up front, centre back. It's just, I was looking at him, I was nearly getting sick, like.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. But yeah, no, I'll be hoping they do, you know. Being partying on that night. Not even for Mickey, like. No, I just thought about it. You were saying, like Ireland, what you got it. Do you remember Robbie Brady's goal about 4 years ago?
I do, yeah.
I had night shift that night.
Oh.
So I was going into work at, what time did I start work? 11:30 that night. Whereas I was in the pub when Robbie Brady scored. Like. I was like, oh, mother of God. Like, I went into work and I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Inside the factory, just trying to literally hide from everyone. And be like, no, it was rough. It was well worth it.
Yeah, that was the last big Ireland kind of result, like.
That else is big Wales 1-0 like Ireland, shit, but didn't get the World Cup.
No. No, the Robbie Brady goal was one of those special ones, yeah.
And the fact they thought it was gone a few minutes before when Hooligan missed, it was just like, it was classic. And you're with all the friends as well the next week.
Oh yeah.
Those are the kind of moments you like to share with people.
Absolutely, yeah. That was it, yeah.
Definitely. Right, we're near the end of the show anyway, so right before we finish, I generally ask 3 questions that I did before Christmas, which was called the Walsh Weekly on Instagram. The first one is, will humans ever live in harmony?
Oh. Do you remember when you were asking me if I thought aliens existed? I think they do.
But someone else won't.
I think they've figured out how that's actually possible. And they look at us going, oh my God, they're still killing each other, idiots. Yeah. So I think we will eventually.
Okay.
I think the human race's survival will depend on it eventually, yeah. So I think we will find a way.
Okay.
And if aliens do exist, I believe that they do live in harmony. They just don't do this whole greed, money, we're better than you, blah 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 blah. Power, they're not interested in that. They've gone beyond that.
You think it'll get to the point where we'll have to? Is there anything you think that'll eventually happen that will make that, as in, you're talking nuclear shit here?
Maybe, yeah, some kind of disaster. I don't, like, that's just what I have in my head, yeah, that you know, richer or poorer will no longer exist. Okay. And wanting to be powerful, that drive, that motivation will no longer exist. That's quite an animalistic drive, unfortunately, that humans have.
Ego.
Yeah. It's like an animal, you know, marking its territory. We are animals. It's a primitive instinct that we have, but I think it causes an awful lot of inequality in the world then as well.
It does.
Whereas in animals, they just kill each other. Like, but it's a little bit more sophisticated problems associated in the human beings world. But
and how long are you talking? Do you think it'll, like, our lifetime? I can't see it anyway.
Oh God, no. maybe another millennia of time.
Do you think the world will last that long?
I've never really read into the projections.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think with all the like the new kind of emissions and all that kind of thing, like they're talking that it's going to destroy the planet, like so. I don't know.
But then we are reducing emissions in other areas, and
True.
you know, electric cars. And
It's always turning.
yeah.
Isn't it?
So I'd say there's a good bit to go yet.
That's it. As long as we lasted anyway. Don't
Yeah.
mind too much.
Yeah.
Alright, so the next one is similar. Is the world better today than it was 50 years ago?
Oh. Now, I wasn't alive 50 years ago, so I don't have context here really. I'm only going off what I see in pop culture really, and what I read in books. I think it is on the main because more people have access to education. So that's my answer. Off the back of simply more access to education, I think people are enjoying life a little bit more and become more aware of themselves and are freer to express themselves. What's the point in living a life where you do what you're told and you go, okay, I better do this because that's expected of me, then you die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's not much of a life. And I think education opens up more of a life to people to experience in their limited time here.
No, the word that comes to mind when I ask the question for me is opportunity.
Yeah.
Even like we might have more opportunity with that now, and with that comes pressure, there comes expectation, there comes that you hear it often saying, if you don't go to college, you weren't worth the shit. You know, that kind of thing. Yeah. It's not like that, but like it does bring more pressure. There are more things now that are more effective badly in mental health, because obviously the more facets you bring into it, the more chance there is of things going wrong.
Yeah.
But I think the opportunity does outweigh that, because at least if something does go wrong, there's more of a chance now you can recover. Yeah. Compared to.
Yeah. Once we get a handle on looking after people in the midst of all this opportunity and unfortunately pressure, hopefully we get more of a handle on it. I think we're starting to, via education actually, I think we're starting to show people how they can navigate the stresses and pressures of life a little bit better.
Yeah, no, definitely I agree with that 100%. The last one now is, so I think based off what you said you might go with one, but I'm not sure. So is it okay to estimate, or do we need to be exact in most situations?
Oh, I like that one. I think in our world, so when it comes to coaching and training people, and I think you have to go off some figures, you have to use metrics when you're testing people in the gym and things like that, but there's an awful lot of feel involved as well. And I would rather that someone just feels like they're getting fitter and healthier and sleeping well and just feels a little bit stronger and goes, no, you don't have to do a 1 hour RM max with me there, or whatever. I feel better, I'm okay, you're doing your job. So in that sense, I go I go more on the estimation side.
Yeah. No, I thought you'd say exact, because you were on about the athletes having the quantitative. You know, how would you react if you didn't, like if you couldn't record times of your runs and you were only going off a feed?
Oh, then yeah, no.
Would you freak out? Like, would you be like, this isn't worth the shit? Like,
yeah, if the clock didn't work or the chip, no, I'd probably have my watch. So.
So that's why the world is better today than it was 50 years ago, so you wouldn't have that.
Yeah.
No, it's an interesting one, like, because a lot of people, like when I put up that poll, I remember loads of people I went to college with, exact. They all nearly voted exact. Like, the people that like you would have taught and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then your general public that weren't into sport and things like that were estimate.
Yeah.
No, estimate overruled the exact. So I remember that, like, it was about 70-30 or something, roughly. Okay. It's just an interesting one, like.
Yeah. It's funny, I actually did a 5k in Killarney where watches weren't allowed and you had to predict your time. You had to predict your finish time.
Oh.
That was strange.
And what did you time it yourself?
No.
Illegally?
No. So you just
arrested.
The police are in the bushes. Yeah, it was strange. I got close enough to what I should be able to do anyway, off of field. So that was strange. Yeah. So I didn't need to be exact that day. But totally, if I'm doing a race now, I need to watch. I need to be sure that I'm going to get a time for this.
Would you do that?
No, I wouldn't. Would I have started running if there was no times involved in it? Not to the extent I do it now, no way. Maybe to feel good, yeah. No time is necessary to just go for a recovery run, for example.
Yeah, but in terms of competition, there's no clock.
Yeah, to bump it up and to really train for running, I think there has to be something that you're aiming for, and that's where time and exactness comes in then, yeah.
No, fair enough. So last question, just before I leave you go, is could you give 3 recommendations to listeners on how to improve their overall well-being?
People talk about flow a lot, and I think it's been mentioned on your podcast before. So flow is that sweet spot between anxiety and calmness and challenge and skill level. So it's when you're involved in an activity that just meets your ability level, but it doesn't make you go, oh my god, I'm not in control. And when that happens, time slows down. Well, it seems like it slows down to you, but it actually flies. So that's great, yeah. But the idea is that the more flow experiences people experience in life, the happier they are. So why wouldn't you try to figure out what puts you into a flow state? And if people want to look up online, there's several audits you can do. So flow audits. What are the things that I do that seem to put me into this state? And then do more of them. Because the science says it makes you happier. So that's my first thing. Find out what your flow activities actually are. You probably know what they are already, but why not just quantitatively exactly write them down? Yeah, definitely. The second one is find purpose. You know you're good at things. People listening to this right now know that they are good at things that other people necessarily lack skill in. So find a way of contributing with that skill set. Make phone calls, send emails, offer to do work for free, offer to help people. Get that sense of purpose back into your life that might have been missing off the back of COVID, or for people that might have lost a level of employment that they were used to and things like that. Get sense of purpose back, volunteer, and you never know what doors that opens then as well, okay? That would be my thing. And I'm sometimes bad for that, but I've started to do little things here and there where I just go, I can do this, and I'm not looking for anything in return.
I think random acts of kindness is what gives you a lot of purpose.
That's it, yeah. Sometimes people don't like words associated with positive psychology, like random acts of kindness and writing gratitude letters and writing things down in general. So some people do like that kind of stuff, but for other people, I would just say, you know you're good at some things. Yeah. Let's try to do more of those, and especially if doing them helps other people. You'd be surprised the burst of enthusiasm you get for that. Then other things come off the back of that.
It feeds that.
It does, yeah. It could be just a small little thing, like showing someone how to tie a tie. I'm not joking. I'm seriously just talking about things like that. There used to be a man that lived close to us who couldn't tie a tie. And he was embarrassed. He was embarrassed about it. So anytime he had to go to like a christening or a funeral or things like that, and my dad told him, anytime, just come up to me, and I'll do it for you. So just having that sense of purpose. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about grand gestures here at all. Changing the community for the better. Not talking about that. That's
tiny things.
Yeah, tiny little things that you know you can do that other people can't. And to be open with that and just to offer them, I think is fantastic. And a couple of my friends have helped me with certain things in the last few months that I can't do. And it's just great. It's just great to see the satisfaction they get from that, and it goes both ways. Like, yeah.
100%. And what I often notice is, like, talking about things like this, like you say, people don't want the big words, but people think it has to be the big words, or you don't do anything. Yeah. Like, as in, they have this big idea, positive wellness. I have no clue about that.
Yeah.
Everyone knows about it. Yeah. They just don't realise it. They don't know, like, they don't say, they don't recognise at the time this is doing good for me.
Yeah.
And I don't say I need to do more. You know?
And just to point out one thing, because it's in the forefront of my mind, there is a little bit of a difference, and I know you know what it is, but just for people who might try to promote their business, like students and things like that, there is kind of a theoretical difference between wellness and well-being. So wellness is more so physical state, the physical state of your health, but that is influenced by mental, emotional and spiritual aspects. Whereas well-being is the mental, emotional and spiritual aspect of health, which of course is influenced by how healthy you are physically. So the two words are used interchangeably, and sometimes people promote their business, but what I would say to people is it looks very impressive. If you understand the difference between the two terms, you read up a little bit about both and how to cultivate both then. So,
like, technically this podcast should be called A Little Bit of Wellbeing, but it's called A Little Bit of Wellness because it sounds better, in my opinion.
yeah, and I wouldn't get bogged down because they're both very similar terms and they're both necessary. So I can see the well-being or wellness for this podcast because you speak about physical stuff and how it interacts with the mental, emotional and spiritual side and vice versa. So,
and you know what, an American, I hate these people, but an American person, human, don't know who it was, decided to nearly rob my podcast name. YouTube actually, YouTube contacted me and they were like, oh, there's a channel after starting, like it's trying to take your name. And I was like, what? And they have it called A Little Slice of Wellness.
Oh, okay.
It's like, go away with you. Mine will better. Slice of Wellness. Who are you?
What is this, amateur hour?
Anyway, sorry for interrupting. Is there any, have you a last point? I think you're on your second one.
Oh, I thought it nice
Have you
segued in three there.
Did you?
Maybe the tip was, I suppose the tip for professionals in our industry would be to
Have whiskey.
Figure out whether you're wellness or well-being, or you're a bit of both. You're probably a bit of both, but show the difference and read up on the science between the two and how to cultivate them. Yeah.
Very good. Trevor, it was an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Like I said, you're probably the reason this has started, so I'm glad to have had you on. It's important to me to make sure you came on, so thanks so much for coming on.
Cheers, man. No problem.
No, guys, I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching. There we go.
Good on. Beautiful.